Welcome to Middle East Briefing. The content of the briefing includes Washington's looming Middle Eastern quagmire. 13 Israeli hostages released by Hamas, says official. Pakistan seeks BRICS membership, despite India roadblock. This Israel has no future in the Middle East. Can the Palestinian Authority really govern Gaza after the war? Washington's looming Middle Eastern quagmire. Foreign affairs. The recent conflict between Israel and Hamas has posed a significant challenge to U.S. strategy in the Middle East. The U.S. response, which includes a surge of military forces and equipment into the region, raises the risk of escalation, backlash, and overstretch. The increased military presence could provoke Iran and its proxies to escalate the conflict, while also straining relationships with U.S. allies in the region. Furthermore, the U.S. military engagement in the Middle East may divert resources and attention away from other strategic priorities, such as countering China in the Indo-Pacific. To develop a more sustainable approach, the U.S. should consider downsizing and realigning its military presence in the Middle East, gradually withdrawing forces and investing in the capabilities of regional partners. This would allow the U.S. to focus on diplomacy, engagement, and economic statecraft in the region, while reducing the risk of being dragged into costly conflicts. The U.S. should also encourage regional partners to establish coalitions to address security challenges and manage tensions, emphasizing narrower forms of cooperation where interests align. This would shift the burden away from the U.S. and create a more stable foundation for the U.S. relationship with Middle Eastern countries. 13 Israeli hostages released by Hamas, says official. Financial Times. Hamas has released 13 Israeli hostages into Egypt, according to an Israeli official. This comes as a truce between Israel and Hamas begins, brokered by Qatar. As part of the truce, Hamas is set to release 50 women and children held by the group, and Israel is set to release 150 Palestinian prisoners. In addition to the Israeli hostages, 12 Thai nationals are also due to be released from Hamas captivity. The release of the Thai hostages had not previously been announced. Pakistan seeks BRICS membership, despite India roadblock. Al Jazeera. Pakistan has formally requested membership in the BRICS group of emerging economies. The country's spokesperson said Pakistan believes it can play an important role in furthering international cooperation and revitalizing inclusive multilateralism. If approved, Pakistan would join the group alongside Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This Israel has no future in the Middle East. Al Jazeera. Israel's recent war on Gaza, characterized by deliberate murder of Palestinians, will not enhance its security or secure its future. Instead, it will lead to greater insecurity, isolation, and undermine its chances for long-term survival. Israel's colonial nature has dominated its behavior, wasting countless opportunities to end its occupation and live in peace with its neighbors. The country has slid further towards fascism, enshrining Jewish supremacy into its laws and extending it across historic Palestine. Israel's colonial enterprise is neither tenable nor sustainable, and it is destined to vanish like other violent intruders throughout history. Can the Palestinian Authority really govern Gaza after the war? New York Times. Many Palestinians in the West Bank and Israel have lost faith in the Palestinian Authority, PA, viewing it as authoritarian, corrupt and undemocratic, and are instead turning to Hamas for leadership. The PA has lost its credibility due to its perceived collaboration with Israeli authorities and its inability to protect Palestinians from Israeli aggression. President Biden has called for Gaza to be unified with the Israeli-occupied West Bank under a revitalized PA, but experts argue that the PA would not be capable of governing post-conflict Gaza. Hamas is likely to win again if elections were held today, according to polls. Palestinians see Hamas as the foremost representative of their interests because no one else is. However, the PA has remained in power because there is a lack of alternatives and international actors do not want to end the peace process or two-state solution by signing its death certificate. The PA is viewed as a convenient body by the international community that can be blamed and funneled money to. The PA is also losing control over parts of the West Bank and tensions are rising, with violence increasing against Palestinians by Israeli settlers. Despite this, the PA has made many arrests of Palestinians and is acting to protect its people. Delicate process to exchange hostages for prisoners begins, but no end in sight to Israel-Gaza war. ABC. The 4-day process of releasing 50 hostages held by Hamas and 150 Palestinians held in Israeli jails has begun, after 7 weeks of fighting in the region. The repatriation of 13 women and children and 39 Palestinian prisoners was expected to take several hours. 12 Thai hostages have also been released. Israel due to release 39 Palestinian detainees. Yahoo! 39 Palestinian detainees are set to be released from Israeli jails on Friday as part of a deal with Hamas to release a group of hostages. The deal, mediated by Qatar, also includes a 4-day pause in the fighting. The detainees, accused of a range of offenses including throwing stones and attempted murder, were chosen from a list of 300 women and minors compiled by Israel, less than a quarter of which have been convicted. The vast majority are being held on remand while awaiting trial. Guns over Gaza fall silent, Israel-Hamas hostage release deal moves forward. Washington Post. On Friday, a 96-hour humanitarian ceasefire between Israel and Gaza began, giving the opportunity for survivors to emerge and a chance for an exchange of hostages. The Israeli military will keep its forces in place but cease attacks as captives are swapped in small tranches, starting with an expected 13 Israelis for 39 Palestinians. An additional 37 Israelis are expected to be released in batches, in exchange for 150 Palestinians. Tired of the same old, what next after Israel-Hamas truce? South China Morning Post. The fragile 4-day truce between Israel and Hamas could be the first tentative step towards ending the conflict, according to analysts. However, they believe that more intense fighting is likely to come, as neither side has a strategic plan for how they want the war to end. Israel's government appears determined to continue its military campaign in the southern half of Gaza, despite increasing pressure from the United States and other allies to prevent civilian casualties. The U.S. is expected to put more pressure on Israel to agree to a prolonged ceasefire once it concludes that the suffering and death being inflicted by Israel is harming its own interests in the Arab world. Meanwhile, Hamas is likely to use the pause in fighting to work diplomatic backchannels and make the case for a longer ceasefire, in the hope that this will damage Israel's international image if it is seen as wanting to resume the war. The analysts believe that both Israel and Hamas stand to emerge as losers from the war, with neither side achieving its objectives. They suggest that a clear strategic endgame is needed from Israel in order for de-escalation to happen, but this is complicated by Israel's unwillingness for the Palestinian Authority or the United Nations to take over governance in Gaza. Ultimately, a multinational or multilateral presence is likely to be needed to govern Gaza, and regional and international partners will be responsible for rebuilding the territory. However, this will require a fundamental political solution and a commitment from Israel to the two-state solution. Hamas has released 12 Thai hostages. Here's what to know. Yahoo! Hamas has released 12 Thai hostages as part of a separate deal to that struck with Israel. Thailand had been negotiating for weeks to secure the release of its nationals, the largest group of foreigners to be taken hostage by Hamas. The release of the Thai hostages comes after the announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the sixth dimension, bringing you the latest news from around the world. Today, we discuss the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas, Pakistan's request for BRICS membership, the future of Israel in the Middle East, the Palestinian Authority's ability to govern Gaza, and the release of hostages and prisoners in the region. Now, let's dive into some analysis. The conflict between Israel and Hamas has put the United States in a tricky position. The U.S. response of increasing military presence in the Middle East carries risks of escalation and strain on relationships with allies. To develop a more sustainable approach, the U.S. should consider downsizing its military presence, focusing on diplomacy and engagement, and encouraging regional partners to take on a larger role in addressing security challenges. This would create a more stable foundation for the U.S. relationship with Middle Eastern countries. Moving on to Pakistan's request for BRICS membership, despite India's roadblock, it shows Pakistan's desire to play a larger role in international cooperation. If approved, Pakistan would join Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa in the group. This could provide Pakistan with opportunities for economic growth and increased influence on the global stage. Regarding the future of Israel in the Middle East, the recent war on Gaza has raised concerns about Israel's security and long-term survival. Israel's behavior, characterized by the deliberate murder of Palestinians, has led to greater insecurity and isolation. The country's colonial nature has dominated its actions, wasting opportunities for peace with its neighbors. Israel must find a more sustainable path forward to avoid further isolation and conflict. In terms of governance in the region, the Palestinian Authority has lost credibility among Palestinians, who view it as authoritarian and corrupt. Many are turning to Hamas for leadership. The PA's ability to govern post-conflict Gaza is questionable, and Hamas is likely to win again if elections were held today. The international community sees the PA as a convenient body to blame and provide funding to. However, tensions are rising, and the PA is losing control over parts of the West Bank. As for the recent release of hostages and prisoners, Hamas has released Israeli hostages, including 13 Israelis and 12 Thai nationals, as part of separate deals with Israel and Thailand. The release comes as a truce between Israel and Hamas begins, brokered by Qatar. The delicate process of exchanging hostages and prisoners has started, bringing a temporary pause to the conflict. To wrap up, these developments in the Middle East highlight the complexity and challenges facing the region. It is crucial for the U.S. to rethink its military presence and focus on diplomacy, while encouraging regional partners to take on a larger role. The future of Israel depends on finding a sustainable path to peace, and the Palestinian Authority must regain credibility to effectively govern. The release of hostages and prisoners offers a glimmer of hope, but a long-term solution requires a clear strategic endgame and commitment to the two-state solution. Now, I turn to you, my esteemed audience. What are your thoughts on these recent developments in the Middle East? Do you have any questions or perspectives to share? Let's engage in an enlightening discussion. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.